are again. Here we find ourselves. Yep, we're here. It's the internet. It's a week. We got a week's worth of video game news. We actually have quite a bit less news than before. So just like when I'm doing a sequential on Rage Select, every week I'm like, I think we're getting close to the end of this game. But I'm going to say, I think we're going to have room this week for more than like one question. I think we're going to have some actual questions. So
I'm looking forward to that. I think I've done maybe one question in all the times I've been on Rage Select, so I'm excited to answer some audience questions.
All right, well then let's not belabor the point. Welcome everybody back to the Rage Select podcast. Here on Rage Select, I'm Jeff.
Hi, I'm Bryce.
And yes, but before we get started, it's the time of the show where we talk about hey, what have you been doing? And I don't feel like just listing off the animes that I've been watching. So I finally got sick of listening to podcasts, Bryce, because I used to listen to a whole bunch of politics podcasts, and they started to get real boring because they're now just about tax code and not the insane things that were happening for the last 4 years. Draw your own conclusions. So I signed up for Audible and started listening to audiobooks on Audible. And I've listened to some really good ones. Like they have, I didn't know this, but apparently this happened in late 2019, some in 2020. Did you know that William Gibson wrote a script for Alien 3? Have you heard this before?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, like there were like 3 scripts for Alien 3, and the first one were treatments that actually William Gibson wrote. And it turns out that Audible, like some British dude, I think, like got a hold of the second script treatment and then developed it into an audio drama that Audible produced, and it has like Lance Henriksen and Michael Biehn coming back to reprise their roles as Bishop and Hicks respectively, and it's like just 2.5 hours. You could totally listen to it on Audible. It's pretty cool.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I also listen to, right now I'm listening to a book called Blitzed that is all about like how the Third Reich used methamphetamines like crazy. Yeah, it's kind of insane. I listen to Michael Pollan has this audiobook on there about caffeine and coffee and tea. And it reminds me of like, you remember back like before the later parts of 2016 when we were really concerned about like people just were really concerned about like, hey, I found this crime podcast about possum stealing in like southern Arkansas in the 70s. It's so crazy. You got to listen to it. And we weren't all just obsessed with like what was happening every day. It kind of feels a lot like that, where I'm just like learning stuff about the world that I didn't know before, and it's crazy. I kind of like it, even though I'm not a big fan of audiobooks, but I like it. It's like a podcast. So
okay, for whatever reason, I already don't read very much, and I have trouble with audiobooks because I listen to podcasts like you would leave a radio on for a dog. A lot of times I just need to hear some of my friends speaking and I don't really pay attention. And if something interesting happens, there are a lot of podcasts where if I'm driving or if I'm doing something in the middle of it, I will have to keep scudding back the same like minute over and over and over again because I'll start to listen to it and I know that there's a good like a joke line or some reference coming up, but then I'm like washing the dishes, so I immediately lose focus and keep playing the same bit again. And so I think I would have that same trouble with audiobooks and paying for them or spending credits, what have you. But that seems like Audible's a pretty good service.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is that it is incredibly difficult. It took me like a day and a half, and this may just be because I'm like old and I don't know how things work anymore, but it just like on my phone, on my Android phone, when you launch the Audible app and then like when you would click on a book, it would like open the Kindle store because it's owned by Amazon and connected to like all that stuff. So it was really, really difficult to find like what are the free books that I get with my subscription. There's like an 8-part thing. And then like when you do find a book, you can't just say like play book. You have to say add this to my library and then like
you have to add it.
Go back to the app and then hit play, and I don't know. That's
kind of the same problem that like Amazon Prime Video has with buying or had. I think it's a little better for video now, or for Comixology. I know for the little time I was using Comixology, you would have to like use the app to put something in your wish list or put it in your like shopping list, and then you'd have to go to the website to buy it because they don't want to give, you know, the transaction costs and stuff. So yeah, a lot of that stuff is kind of kludgy. I kind of thought for Audible being as kind of for kind of being a storied sort of service that they kind of would have figured that stuff out a little more, made it a little easier.
Yeah, I don't know. I finally figured out how to do it, but I don't know. I recommend anybody who wants to go. I don't know. What podcast do you listen to, Bryce? I maybe it's just that I haven't found like good podcasts that I've been relying on the same like 4 podcasts for the last year, but
I listen to a bunch of comedy podcasts. So the few that I listen to right now are like What a Time to Be Alive, which is a great like kind of news of the week, weird news of the week story podcast. Podcast But Outside, which is really fun. That's 2 friends set up a table around Southern California and they just interview people on the street every week. And Your Kickstarter Sucks is a long listen for me. That those guys are great. They talk about Kickstarters that are really bad. So I don't know. That's kind of the genre that I'm in. I'm kind of more into the comedy side. Everyone else I know listens to, you know, true crime or history podcasts, and I don't have it's too much. I can't pay attention to it for long enough.
You know what you need to really start appreciating podcasts? What you need to do is get a dog. Because then you got like 30 or 40 minutes every day where you got to just be like outside walking around. You can't watch TV. You got to have something to kill the time. I think that's how that's why I think the audiobooks work, is because it's just like an hour a day that I have to eat up. Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, what have you been up to the last couple of weeks? I haven't talked to you in a little while.
You know, something I started recently on the Apple Arcade service is Fantasian. I don't know if you saw Fantasian. This is the new Sakuraguchi game. Sakuraguchi did the story and Nobuo Uematsu did the music. So it's like 2 big Final Fantasy heads making this kind of traditional stand-in-a-line JRPG game.
That's the one with the dioramas, though, right? Like all of the environments are physical, then they've been captured and then put into the game.
Exactly. I will say that the game has a lot of the same vibes as a Final Fantasy. Like like you see the first UI menu bubble pop up, and it's this like embossed, drop shadowed, like blue gradient thing, and it just looks like a Final Fantasy ass window, and it feels like going home. But I'm having some trouble with the story. I don't know if it's because they've designed it for mobile and for, you know, iOS first or what, but it definitely falls into some of the same trends that I feel like I've seen in JRPGs over the past I guess a couple of decades, which is like breaking up stories into a lot of very little bits, so you're no more than like a couple of minutes away from a save point, or you have like you can save anywhere, and it kind of makes like I played a few hours of it, and I constantly feel like, wait, okay, where am I? Why am I supposed to? I can tell like intuitively, okay, I'm supposed to go to this space. So I'm supposed to move from this screen to the next screen. But I don't really know why I'm doing this, right? Like for some reason you go to a town and you got to go to the fortune teller, and you go to the fortune teller and then you see the girl. Oh, I know the girl. And then you have to go to the forest for some reason because you need money, but I don't know why you're going to the forest to get money. Like it's it's so close to being right there. And I don't know why it feels so distracted, but I'm going to keep giving it a try because I think it's neat. The combat system has a little bit of, it's meant for touchscreens, so they kind of play with it where you kind of aim some of your attacks. So like with magic, you kind of like can arc it. And so you can kind of make a curve to hit multiple enemies at once.
Okay.
Or to like avoid enemies who are blocking or whatnot. And then otherwise, it's just kind of a traditional JRPG. I don't know. I'm still very undecided on it, but it's cool, and I feel like they put a lot of love into it, and I don't know how big it is, but it feels big in a way that like mobile games, and especially like a lot of the Apple Arcade stuff, doesn't always feel like a big thing.
Well, it's interesting because I actually just ordered an Apple TV yesterday to try it.
Oh, nice.
Because I don't have any iOS devices. I kind of want to play it for the show because I also know that last week they also put there's like a Platinum Games action game on that Apple Arcade. And then I heard there's like a kind of gotcha Star Wars or Star Trek gachapon kind of thing that doesn't have microtransactions and feels pretty good.
Right. It's very interesting. Like you probably covered this on the show last week because they added a bunch of like mobile classics, right? Like Cut the Rope and like Threes or I'm trying to think of what were the other free games, but Fruit Ninja, right? Like they put a bunch of classic mobile games, but with Apple Arcade, because it's a subscription, they say like, hey, no ads, no in-app purchases, full stop. And so it makes games like those that are meant to kind of be little hits that you get interrupted by ads or purchases.
Yeah.
It makes them feel really really fresh. It feels like, oh, you could just like play a good, well-designed game for as long as you want. Like you could just play a mobile. Jeff, I don't know if you know this. They can make good mobile games.
What?
They don't have to be annoying.
What? No, insanity. No, I get what you're saying. It's like they took all of that really hardcore Skinner box stuff to keep you playing in order to advertise to you. But then since all the ads and stops are gone, you just have the whole keep playing one more turn Skinner box stuff to keep you moving.
It's ingenious, and I think going back and adding a bunch of those classic games and all the originals that they've been, getting exclusivity deals or whatever for, like it just feels cool and fresh. There's like one of them, Spire Blast something. It's a little like you shoot. It's like kind of like Boom Blocks. You shoot colors at a tower and they connect, they match and they explode or whatever. And playing a game like that, which has boosters and stuff, but you can't buy them. It just feels good. It just feels like I can just play the game. I can just play a game, and I don't have to be stopped all the time. It's a crazy idea, I know, Jeff, but somehow they've they've nailed it.
They cracked the code. They finally managed to make a video game that was fun to play. Holy shit! I've been waiting for so long. Well, speaking of video games that are fun to play, there are an awful lot on this list of links that I have put together this week. Let's start with some scant. I almost feel bad putting Resident Evil Village up front this week because next Thursday, a week from when you and I are recording, there's going to be another showcase. They're going to do a whole another thing. So I firmly expect next week to have another whole big chunk of Resident Evil news. But this week there was a few interesting things. There was a video that came out for the PS4 gameplay, which I gotta admit, did you watch this video? It looks really good. Like,
yeah.
It's a testament to just how good the RE engine looked on the PS4 platforms. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm not, listeners may know I'm not a big horror game person, so I kind of am on the outside of the Resident Evil stuff. I know that they're doing these showcases all the time, and like, I know what this game is. Mm-hmm. Why do you keep telling me about this? I know what this game is. This is the sequel to Resident Evil 7, and there's a very tall woman in it. And like, awesome, we know this now. So like, just put it out.
Yeah. I don't know. I also had, I'm trying to figure out right now that RE Verse went into beta from like yesterday as of recording this until I think it's like on Saturday. And I'm trying to decide whether I even want to play it. I don't know. I guess when I was thinking about this, there was some concept art that came out for Lady Dimitrescu. There was specifically the fact that they talked about her shoe size.
I know, and not a size like the inches,
Yeah.
with the decimal at the 10th place. They know what they're doing. Oh, they know what they're doing.
It's so strange to me because I'm like, I don't know if the appearance of this villain has turned people into foot fetishists, or if like it's just become this thing where everybody wants to get in on the meme and they're like, yes, mommy, step on me, because I don't know that many people who are into getting stepped on. And the first thing that I thought when I saw a super tall lady wasn't just like, I hope she tramples on my crotch. I was like, ooh, I like tall ladies. That lady's really tall. Look at her. She's a pretty tall lady, and she's also evil villain.
I think it's a little column A, a little column B, Jeff. Okay. To be honest with you, I think all of the above apply to that.
Okay. There's some interesting stuff out here that came out where they talked about how originally they just took Mia from Resident Evil 7, who was like your spouse that you were there to, or your partner that you were there to rescue in Resident Evil 7. She's the one like throws you around at the very beginning, and they just made her. They were trying to figure out like what to do with her. Then they made her bigger, and everybody was like, "That's it. That you've done it." And they're like, "All right, put a dress on that. That's it. We got the game right there." Which
hand on a giant knob that says "big,"
right,
and turning it to see what the right amount is.
I'm just trying to think. Like, I mean, is this such an interesting concept that, like, what if it was Nemesis but a pretty lady instead of a guy wrapped up in trash bags, and then like suddenly everybody's losing their minds? Like, have we not hit on this before, that if you make a really tall lady, then everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, we're all horny all the time. Like, yes to that. Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Well, they never tried to make the enemies sexy in Resident Evil. Yeah, right. That's been my outsider's take, is they've tried to, I don't know, zhuzh it up with some of the protagonists, but I don't know that there's been like, I mean, she also just, I mean, besides being 9'3", she also just looks kind of like a normal person, which I guess was kind of the Resident Evil 7 thing of like a family, right? Kind of a normal infected family. So I think that's interesting. Trying to, I mean, she's a countess in like some big Siberian castle, so maybe it's not girl next door.
Yeah, just a regular person in their Siberian castle. Yeah. No, I don't know. I like it though. You know what? Yeah, I was trying to think about it, and I think you're right, because Resident Evil has gone out of its way to like there's a lot of sexualization of like Jill, and there was this lady in Resident Evil 4 who was like the corporate baddie, and she was like, what was her name? Lady villain. I'm misspelling stuff. And she was not Ada. Stop it, Google. Not that. No, not 4. 5. It was in 5.
Okay, I was about to say 4. I don't think 4 was just a little Napoleon guy.
Yeah, Excella Gion, and she was like just falling out of her top and slinking around, and then she turns into a monster at some point. But yeah, you're right that like the actual enemies that you're fighting have generally been zombies. And even when they were like the Las Plagas in 4, it was like villagers. There was never like people that anybody wanted to. I think the closest thing I could think of is like the nurses in Resident Evil or in Silent Hill. Sort of.
Okay, kind of.
Yeah,
kind of. Not even a kind of. An entire kind of.
So, yeah, I guess they happened on a concept. I guess good for you, Capcom. Why didn't anybody think of this before?
When you got a runaway train, just keep going.
Yeah,
don't hit the brakes.
But yeah, I think that I really do think that this is. I've been so mired in PS5 and Series X. Like, I haven't plugged any of my old consoles back in. That, like, it was nice to look at this footage and go, you know what? If you have a PS4 Pro, like, this game still looks. The RE, I don't know how many goats it took at Capcom to make the RE engine do what it does, but the fact that it is an engine that is as detailed and has as good lighting and textures and stuff as it has, but also runs at 60 frames per second, like, is also able to run at these, like, really nice frame rates, and that they're using it for everything. They're using it for Monster Hunter Rise, like, as well as Resident Evil. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good sign that they've got a really. I mean, this stuff looked good on the base PS4, right? With Resident Evil 7, I think. I just think that they know that they have something really valuable with a good engine like this.
Yep. Which is all the more confusing why RE-verse looks like such total and complete crap. Anyway, we also got the pre-trailer for the Resident Evil Village showcase. There's going to be, Bryce, I know you were just saying that you want to hear more before the game comes out. So
there's just so many questions I have about the very tall woman and her video game.
Next Thursday, April 15th, the day before my birthday. I guess this will be my birthday present from Capcom. Watch about the tall lady or the very fat man. There's a very fat man and there's a very tall lady, and there's some also smaller ladies and like some werewolves and some shit like that. But we also got a bunch of information last week about Mass Effect. A lot of this I feel like was surfaced in this 11-minute IGN video. I don't know if you got a chance to look through this, but they kind of came out with a whole list of like the stuff that's being changed in Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Most of it is for the first game. Like, I think that the two things for the second and third game. Well, before we go there, Bryce, do you affect masses or?
No, I don't really affect the mass very much. My experience with Mass Effect was I remember buying. I think I bought a disc, like a DVD PC copy of it, but many years ago, and played an hour of it and hated it. Mm-hmm. It's really it's just not the type of game for me. So I'm completely out on all of the fandom for Mass Effect.
Okay. Well, the big things, so they talked about, obviously the lion's share of the work is going into Mass Effect 1 to make it to give it a certain amount of parity with 2 and 3 so that it doesn't just feel completely different. But the big things is in 2, there's more ammo drops, and in 3, so 3 had this whole thing where you had to have the galactic readiness to a certain point in order to get the good ending. And this was a way for them to flog the multiplayer, because if you played the phone app or you played the multiplayer, that was how you got over the last 10%, and technically you could go all the way to 100% without multiplayer, but you had to do every single optional side quest in the entire game to get the game up to the level where you got a good ending, which was yeah, exactly.
Ugh, so gross. Fuck.
Yeah. But what is interesting is I was reading in the article for this is they talked about how they've now tied the galactic readiness rate to, if you just play 3, you still will have to just do you'll have to 100% 3 to get the good ending. But that readiness rate is going to be carried over the more of the games you played. So if you started at 1 and then went all the way to 3, it'll count your progress in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 towards the readiness level at the end of 3. So
interesting.
Yeah. So if you just wanted to play through all, I'd be willing to bet that it's something where if you wanted to play through all 3 games, but not necessarily do every single optional side quest in the game, that you could still get to the kind of 100% super good ending. Well, quotey fingers good. It's still everything gets destroyed one way or another, but
that's a kind of clever way to handle that, I guess, right? Because they're all packaging this all together. It's not like you've got these 3 games that are trying to you're trying to get 3 separate SKUs to talk to each other. This is all in one package. So I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're a Mass Effect fan who's playing these games again and I guess wants the good ending but just wants to play 3, then it would make sense that you would probably want to play a lot of 3, right? And if you're a new person joining, that you would start with 1 and you would make your way, and by the time, if it were me, by the time I got to the 3rd video game in this collection, I would not want to do side quests at all. I would not want to do nearly as much work to get a good ending. So I think that's a clever compromise. Yeah.
There are other couple interesting things in here that I thought was really fascinating. So Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 both had these like motion comics that if you didn't play the last game and have a transferable save file, you could go through this kind of choose your own adventure motion comic that recapped the last game and then gave you the ability to make the choices that you would have made in the last game so that the effects were felt. Those are all going to be integrated. Apparently, the game is going to actually keep separate save files for each game, even though it's one package, to keep them kind of distinct so you can choose which ones migrate and which ones don't. Like, you still kind of have to do that as opposed to trying to consolidate the whole thing into one save file.
That probably makes sense. I mean, these are... Even connecting 2 video games together, I'm sure, is a huge technical challenge. So going back to 3 old games, one of which you're, changing all the balance of, like, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. They showed some stuff with the Mako, which is kind of the big truck, and it was like a super floaty kind of people are split on the Mako. It's like there's this whole thing where you have to drive around on planets in Mass Effect, and it was this very bouncy ride, and you had to do these combat sequences that were very floaty. And it looks like they've tightened all that up. I actually was interested because I feel like nowadays remakes tend to fall into the like, all we did was take the PC version and put it on a modern console category, or we remade this entire game from the ground up category. And in this one, I feel like it's a weird midpoint that we don't normally see. Like, there's a point in this 10-minute thing that they put on IGN where they show that there was an area early on in the game that had a wall. Like, you came out of an elevator and there was a wall there, and that you had to go kind of around the wall to go further on, and that they took that wall out. The wall was there because of the load speeds on the consoles. They couldn't stream all the level data in, so you had to put up something to obscure the rest of the level, and that they added things like light fixtures and like cushions on some of the seats. Like, so they've done some work here. It's like an interesting midpoint where they took the first one and they just really tried hard, it seems like, to get it in line so that it doesn't feel like whiplash when you beat 1 and start 2, that it doesn't feel like, oh shit, 10 years have passed and that first one looked like ass and the second one looks like way better. So I think, Jeff, if would you co-sign this hypothetical that if this Legendary Edition is good, that would be probably some much needed good PR for the Mass Effect franchise, showing that they can put some time and effort into these beloved games and people can enjoy them in a modern setting. It would be the first BioWare release that people have universally enjoyed since Dragon Age Inquisition, maybe, which is kind of saying something. So yeah, it seems like a good middle of the road win for BioWare, where like their last 2 projects have kind of fallen on their face. Mass Effect already has a lot of goodwill bringing it to modern systems with like super low load times, and a little bit of work done, but not like completely overhauled from the ground up, is a good way. Plus, the other thing that I think is really interesting here is that all 3 Mass Effect games had a fair amount of DLC, and that all of that DLC is in this release. So,
oh, that's good. Because especially the Mass Effect DLC, correct me if I'm wrong, but was like never went on sale, right? It was always super high priced throughout the life of those games.
I don't really know, because I kind of bought it all up front. Like, I was really keeping pace with Mass Effect from day one. So
But this was before the idea of like a season pass, really, right? This you would have been buying everything piecemeal, more or less.
I think so. I don't,
at least at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely for Mass Effect 1. Well, because I think that Mass Effect 1, like, I don't think there's any story DLC for Mass Effect 1. I could be totally wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that it was just like armor packs, and because this was early DLC days, right? So it's just like weapon packs, armor packs, and apparently all that's been integrated and you can buy it from vendors or research it or build it yourself or whatever. Like 2 was really where the DLC game stepped up because you had like Lair of the Shadow Broker, which was like this heist mission that was really impressive. And that's the one where you like start with a museum heist and end like fighting on the side of a spaceship in a space lightning storm, and it was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. So but yeah. Let's see. In other EA news, this is actually really interesting because I don't know if you remember this, but around October around October of last year, there was a patent that was filed via EA with this dynamic difficulty thing. And I think the way that it was reported was like, EA wants to do this thing to keep everybody playing their games as service games longer and longer. Like, it was a very kind of abstract thing. Well, it appears that now we can actually see the direct patent that was filed. I actually looked through a lot of this.
Oh, yeah?
And what this seems to be is, the director in Left 4 Dead, or like, I don't know how much you know about in Resident Evil 4, they have the scaling difficulty, right? So if you're doing better in RE4, then it'll restrict the amount of drops, like the ammo drops and the health drops that you get from enemies. It'll restrict them to kind of bring you back down to some more scarcity. And then if you're flagging, then it'll start dropping more. And this seems like it's doing that, but then also making like an online player profile of you to adjust even more options up and down. Nothing I saw here seemed like it would work for online, right? Like, you can't dynamically adjust my weapon damage against other people because the internet would figure that out, and it would be really like, if I'm doing badly, you can't just let me kill Ninja over and over again.
Is this I could have swore that this was a thing specifically for online. Maybe this is something we were referencing earlier, but it didn't used to be a thing, and I think it was for EA, where you're right. There was only so much balancing that they would be able to do within the matches, but weren't they kind of sneakily matchmaking people to kind of adjust how your overall playing would be? Like, if you were playing FIFA, right? If you were playing FIFA for a long time and you maybe weren't winning much of your online matches, they might, next time they try to matchmake you with someone, they might give you someone who's a little easier. Like, am I remembering that right? Because I remember a whole hullabaloo about that, and I think in online multiplayer, that's definitely some form of rigging, to be sure.
You know what? I actually think, now that we're discussing it and now that I'm actually thinking about it out loud, I think that you are correct in the thing that you're talking about, and I don't think that this is that, because
a different thing. Okay.
Yeah, after looking through it, it seems like, I mean, I think it maybe it was all connected to the same thing, where like EA was trying to patent numerous different difficulty adjustment systems, and that people latched onto the online part, because I don't see any part of this that seems to be talking about online. I could be wrong, but this just seems
in single player you get much more. You get a lot more leeway, right? Because you don't, in the moment, 1-to-1, you don't have anyone like auditing the type of gameplay, right? You're not gonna know if you see 4 enemies when it should be 6, because, I mean, unless you're on Twitch and someone goes, that's not as many enemies as I got, because no one's going to do that. But you get a lot of leeway with single player, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that this is closer to a single player thing. The only thing that like really kind of, the thing that bothers me about this, I don't really have a problem with the concept of dynamically altering difficulty. I do have a problem if it's applied too liberally, then like you end up with an Oblivion situation where like rats and dragons all feel the same to fight because the game is always trying to scale stuff to be at your same level. And there is a sense of accomplishment that I feel like a player should have where it's like, oh, I started out with the pistol, but now I've got the plasma rifle. So these guys should die way faster with the plasma rifle than with the pistol that I started out with, type of thing. But
how much of this is based on real-time analysis, Jeff? Because I know even back to, I remember it was a thing, and it was a small thing, but it was a thing in all of the GTA San Andreas when they were doing their big media blitz, however many decades ago, that the game would adjust the difficulty. Say if you were failing a lot in San Andreas, you can see it when you play it. If you fail a level too many times, they'll spawn less people, or they'll give you more weapons or ammo or armor drops in strategic locations as you are like replaying. I mean, you have to lose. The difference would be that you have to lose multiple times,
right?
On the same kind of play session, which would be different than a real-time analysis. But this certainly isn't the first dynamic difficulty. So I'm surprised that they got a patent to begin with.
So if I'm actually understanding,
or is this filed?
No, this is filed. This is, I mean, I'm looking at the actual the patent on the U.S. patent website.
But not awarded. This is just a filing, right? They actually didn't secure the.
Yes, I think so. But I think that I think what you said is correct. But I think that the difference here is that rather than what you're describing and where I'm describing with the Resident Evil 4 thing, is that this would be like partially on the cloud and like. So let's say, okay, because there's a network component to this, right? That like the director that is controlling the game difficulty is remote, and that your profile is being carried from game to game, and as more information about your play is being collected, that adjustment can be done in more minute ways, and maybe even be done ahead of time because the server knows that you're no good at video games. So it's like, all right, well, bump this guy down a little bit because we know, that he. I'm not saying that you're not good at video games. But like,
yeah. Jeff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, I see the wheels turning.
Part of me was like, well, why are they doing this? There has to be prior art, but having it online means that they get to say, we're making your game better, your experience better by being always online.
Right. It also feeds a lot into what we were talking about with phone games of like one of the nice things about that that adjustment and difficulty when a game does it well, right, is it just keeps you playing because you're like, oh, well, I died. Let me try this one more time. You're like, oh, I did it this time, right? It's always keeping you. And in RE4, like I always thought that in RE4 it worked really well because it always keeps you nervous and anxious, but not like failing to the point where you get frustrated and you stop playing the game, or making the game so easy that you get bored and you stop playing it. Is that there's like that real middle sweet spot of like player engagement where you're engaged and you're conquering the challenge, but it's never too frustrating, but it's also not too easy. So yeah, there's a, I don't know. This seems to fit into EA's whole model of just like, well, get them playing and then keep them playing forever, and don't ever let them stop playing because that's how we make our money is when they play the video games. So we got to keep them playing all the time.
This is more dastardly than I thought. All right.
The other thing that I don't like about this is I don't like them patenting any system that touches dynamic difficulty scaling as a concept, because I don't want one company to be like, well, we're the only ones who can do that. We're the only ones who can do the dynamic difficulty scaling, which
this is as software patents go, this is a very tough one to feel like it justifies its existence, because we already have online. I feel like there's got to be so much prior art for this that they would not get this granted, but who knows? patent office does weird stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm still kind of trying to figure it out because I know that I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it because I know that games do it, and the idea that like all EA games are going to be personally calibrated to be the most fun to me, like as a concept, it doesn't sound bad. But then you're like, but EA is doing it. I do not trust them. They seem like bastards, and I do not trust them. So I don't know. Speaking of untrustworthy bastards, no, there was, this is an interesting thing. We had a couple of stories out of China this week. Apparently, Tencent and the Chinese authorities have collaborated to shut down what appears to be the world's largest operation dedicated to selling cheats for video games. Specifically, this is Overwatch, Call of Duty Mobile, cheats. But what I thought was really interesting about the story, this is a Polygon story, is that it notes that the police seized 46 million in assets, including luxury cars, and arrested 10 people in connection to the ring. The operation reportedly sold subscriptions costing as much as $10 per day or $200 a month for revenues of 76 million. Who the fuck gives somebody $10 a day to cheat at video games? Like what?
I wonder if I'm going to paint with a very broad brush. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if there is a certain amount of, say, the live streaming audience, the live streaming creator audience, people who are streaming these games, who would materially benefit from having some sort of trainer like this to make them look good, right? Whatever you can say about Ninja, like his entire thing was he is really good at Fortnite,
right?
And so there's a large audience to watch people be good at these games. I think, it's difficult for me to say why, but these are very popular games. I don't know if these are people trying to get up in the rankings, trying to use this as a means of earning currencies in the game, so that maybe you're paying $10 a day, but then you're not paying Blizzard $60 for skins or something.
Right.
And then doing it per day or per month seems is almost kind of like an internet cafe sort of model, right? Just like, hey, I'm going to use the computer for the day, or like karaoke, or like subscription. Like they've got they made a version of Wii Sports for the Wii U. I don't know if you saw this in Japan. Mm-hmm. That was a pay per model. You could pay for just a day, and it was like a couple of bucks, or you could get like a month or what have you.
Okay.
But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for trainers.
Yeah, that's kind of what I keep coming back to, is just like 76. This is like I think you and I were talking about selling the CDPR data leak for millions of dollars, and I'm just like, sometimes this stuff, it really confuses me because I just didn't think there was this amount of money in this sort of enterprise. Like I've seen stories before about like breaking up people selling trainers online, but it's like you just buy it and then you're done. But the whole like subscription model and fucking luxury cars and all this stuff, like, but I also don't know. I mean, it doesn't really go into much detail in this story. I assume because this is in China, it probably, but like how in trouble are these people going to get? Like, are they going to take their $76 million because they sold ways to break a video game? Like, are they going to jail? Are they going to be like, I really want to know the follow-up to this about like how in trouble can they get, and like, because I know that China's weird how they have their own version of Steam that like shuts off at 8:00 and you can't play video games after 9 or whatever because you're supposed to be sleeping like a good party member or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I guess it's no idea.
Yeah. I mean, as it's reported in the story, like Tencent is directly involved or collaborated with the police because that affects their bottom line, right?
Right.
Like if you have people dominating these games, then that suddenly affects the experience for all the people who aren't paying, and you kind of lose the image. You can lose the image of like a fair game. So I would probably venture to guess that you could probably find some way to try these people for damages to the reputation of these games, let alone just like basic like reverse engineering and hacking charges. And I think there's enough money, especially from say Tencent, to go after whatever they want to go after.
True. Well, they should also go after speedboats because apparently not only do we have luxury cars and cheat makers, but another story last week that apparently there were a bunch of NVIDIA cards being smuggled out of Hong Kong International Airport and like a speedboat chase. And this was a bunch of NVIDIA CMP 30HXs, which are like crypto mining GPUs. This world is a weird place, Bryce.
Cryptocurrency, I mean, is one of the direct causes of like the silicon shortage that we have right now. Because whether it's a good consumer card or one of these crypto cards, like just the people who have so much money wrapped up in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, like there's no end in sight for those people. That it's a lot of people who already have money or are moneyed from the various crypto booms and busts, who are just waiting for the next one. And that means, even if a Bitcoin is $50,000 today, well, that shit's gonna be $200,000 in the mind of some of these people. And no matter how many cards you get, no matter how much energy you use to mine these things, or how much money you spend to just acquire the currency, they see that there's another boom right around the corner. And investing is always very dangerous, but especially in cryptocurrencies, which I think would be very difficult to shut down from a legal standpoint, but the value of them is only based on how many other crazy people are wrapped up into this thing.
Yeah, it's very strange. Let's see. From there, Bryce, I don't know about you because I know that you stream, but I actually got an email from Twitch last week that apparently they're starting up this new program with like basically this third party. Basically, Twitch is starting up a thing where they are talking about doing off Twitch investigation of abuse, which could result in consequences on Twitch. This is, there's just a lot of question marks in this week's podcast. I'm not really entirely sure. I've seen this happen before. This type of thing happened before with other websites where it's like somebody who has a bad reputation for being a jerk off. It isn't necessarily doing something specifically on this site, gets banned because of their activities on Twitter, right? And I'm just not entirely sure how I feel about this idea of your, I don't know, of this website kind of checking on your behavior everywhere, and not just kind of like what you're doing on the one website. Like I get both sides of it. I'm boring. I don't do anything. Like I'm not gonna get kicked off of anything. The worst thing I do is put sexy ninja porno games on YouTube,
right.
But I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. I mean, I guess it's in the positive side is, if somebody isn't technically harassing somebody on Twitch, but you can prove that on Twitter they are harassing them, that you can, ban them out of a streamer's chat because of their Twitter behavior to keep them from coming in and being a jerk off on Twitch. And I guess I definitely understand that. I guess it kind of depends on how the whole thing shakes out. And also, I don't Twitch has not been doing a great job recently with a variety of different things, and so I don't know. How do you feel about this? You stream on Twitch more than I do.
I think part of this is in response to, like you said, Twitch's mishandling of kind of public streaming figures, whatever, getting wrapped up in off-site circumstances. And it used to be that if you did something on Twitch and there was stuff offside of Twitch, they would take that into account. And now this is like, hey, if you do something heinous off of Twitch, we now have this thing that says this. Now you are allowed to be like refused from the website because of that behavior. Violence, harassment, real nasty stuff is the way that they seem to portray it. It is not about name calling or necessary bullying, but real bad stuff. It's very strange because this is we definitely shouldn't get into this because I don't know enough about it, but I think that this parallels similar to the issue that Substack is having, where you have a platform, but it's definitely not an editorially independent platform. This is a platform where it's not just a tool. This is people, engaging in business with Twitch, right? If you are a partner or an affiliate, you sign a contract with Twitch. You kind of get Twitch's blessing. You get access to the monetization stuff, and you get into their exclusivity thing. And whether or not it is very targeted, which like some of the Substack stuff has been, or kind of just spray and pray like Twitch has done, right? It's very easy to get affiliate, and they have a pretty clear defined road to getting to a partner status. At the end of the day, being a partner or even an affiliate on Twitch means that you have gotten a thumbs up from Twitch. And if they find out, oh, actually you were like grooming children over on Twitter, you need to be able to say, hey, that accusation is accurate, which is where the third party investigator comes in, and we have a rule that says that we can do this.
Yeah,
right. It's and you need that because, again, Twitch is not just a blind mechanism. They are signing these people to these contracts, and I think it's very strange. I have along with doing actual streaming and content creation, I also do some community management with our Diamond Club stuff, and I'm always a bleeding heart when it. I can tend to be a bleeding heart when it comes to giving people multiple chances, and so I don't know how all of this works into that, and it ends up being a very weird thing where we're looking at huge platforms who are engaging in user-generated content. The same thing that YouTube's going through, Twitter and Patreon, Tumblr, literally any social media website, where despite what the legal definition of the law says, is that a lot of these places are being hands-on publishers. They are editorially controlling the site, whether it is via mass tools like partnering people or making people verified on Twitter or having AdWords, what have you, or something very specific like the Substack Pro stuff or what have you. At the end of the day, there is editorial control, and this is a new frontier, right? This is all. No one has really figured it out because we've only been doing this for a little while. So I agree. It's confusing because we don't have really a good example of a service that's handled having editorial control over a lot of people,
right? And
how they handle what is basically, public relations for their stars and their talent on other services, right?
Yeah.
You look at like an agency. If you were an acting agency, you would take into account the press or the press and the public relations that one of your talent has from the things that they do that you don't sanction, and you have to respond to that. But now you have to multiply that by millions and millions of people who have been in a lot of cases robotically churned through this machine.
Right.
We don't know what to do with those people. We don't know how to handle those people. We don't know how to handle them, especially over long periods of time. And
yeah,
we're figuring that out. And we're taking a very startup, a very Silicon Valley, break things and move fast approach to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's it's kind of like the EA thing in some ways to me, where it's like, as a concept, I have no problem with this. It's just that there's a it just kind of rubs against the grain of my understanding of the kind of compartmentalization of services on the internet, the way that I've always understood it. And like, maybe this is good. Maybe like one of the ways to curb some of this bullshit is to be like, well, I don't care. Like if you behave up to the letter of our terms of service on our website, but you're a total shithead on this forum over here, we're taking your entire character on the internet into account when we say whether we want you to be platformed or not, so that you can't just game the system by making sure you follow the rules when you're here, but then when you go out, you're being a total garbage person. Again, it's
very tough because like building, say, a personal brand online requires using multiple networks and services, right? You have to build your following in multiple places because diversifying your audience and your community is very important. But that's just how it works, right? There's not a... I don't know that I would say that there's like a Twitter star. There's no one nowadays who is just famous just for making good tweets, because then those people who get a following monetize and go to other places. You really can't make money on Twitter. So you take your Twitter and you open a Substack, you open a Twitch, you do a TikTok, you do YouTube, whatever, Patreon. And I agree, because I'm kind of from the same time period, Jeff, of like, the internet used to be HTML websites, and they all kind of were siloed off. And now the internet is all one dynamic thing. It's all merged. Even though you have discrete domain names, you are a citizen of the world online, the World Wide Web.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also is interesting to think about just in terms of time. Like, I've often thought about how, what is it, April, May, June, I think so. In June, Rage Select will have been going on for 8 years, and the idea of just like, well, how far back does this? Because I know there have been, not to get into specifics, but there have been a lot of people where it's like, you were younger, you were making edgy tweets because that's what you did, and then you never deleted them. And then years later, somebody pulls up your tweets that now seem like, what kind of fucking war criminal would write that on the internet when, like, sure. 10 years ago in 2011, like, we wrote entirely different stuff on the internet. So I wonder, like, how does it's an interesting thing, because online is unlike real life in a lot of different ways, in that, like, nobody remembers what you said 10 years ago in real life, but you could literally go look at your tweets or a YouTube video. I mean, there's YouTube videos of Jason and I when we were on Spill. That was like in 2012. So like, and it just, I don't know. It's interesting because how far back of a how far does the behavior that they're discussing, how far back does that go? I don't know. It's so weird, because again, like, at its heart, this seems like a very reasonable thing to do. It's just, I feel like I've seen everything on the internet gets abused to some level or another, but I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, if this may be esoteric, but like, I know when we were growing up with, like, the internet as a new thing, and, be very careful about what you put out and don't give out your private information. And, the biggest thing of all is, like, that stuff lives forever. And that's only become more true over, these past 3+ decades of, like, that stuff you are defined, like, in real life, you're defined by your actions, and online, you're defined by your actions and the things that you say, except they leave a much longer lasting impression, right? If you publish a bad book, there might only be so many copies out there. You can find them and burn them. If you have old tweets, well, if you don't think you can stand by them, go and get a thing and delete them. Or, like, I think people are allowed to change and evolve and progress, but that also means that we haven't really, as humans, really understood or had a great sense that like the things that you do and you put on the internet are a part of you. They are always being published, right? Every time someone loads up your tweets, to some degree, that is a publishing of that tweet, and we aren't built to believe that you have to stand by everything you say forever,
Right.
Because we've never really, and that means we've never had any understanding that you can unsay things, you can remove things and clean, because your personal image is not just about like brushing away the bad things so that people don't find out the real you. It's like you are the collection of all of yourself, your history, and what you put on display.
Yeah. Just as a side note, I would just like to say that I am so happy that the internet wasn't a thing that I could access in my pocket when I was in my 20s. I've told a lot of Rage Select a lot of the times, Bryce, but like none of you motherfuckers knew me before I was 30. And that is a good thing, because 20-year-old Jeff was angry and he said stupid shit and he had some bad opinions that had to get worked out. Like, I'm getting ready to be 43 next week, and like, my 30s to my 40s was a whole decade worth of growth. But then like, oh my God, before that, I in no way want to look back at the things that I said. I think I found like a spiral notebook with a bunch of shit that I wrote that were like my deep thoughts in high school. And I was like, oh no, oh no, 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 oh no, no, no.
We just unpublish that in the fireplace.
Yes.
We'll just delete tweet on that one.
So I don't know how that works. Well, I tell you what, we're right about an hour, but let's kick it into high gear, because a lot of this is very easy going. We got our look at E3 2021's digital lineup, and it looks like the big names are going to be Capcom, Konami, Microsoft, Nintendo, Take-Two, and Ubisoft, along with Warner and Koch Media. This means that Blizzard, Namco, EA, Sega, Sony, and Square will not be participating in this digital-only E3, which is a weird line to draw between the two parts of the video game industry.
I wonder how much of this is just competition with the Summer Games Hell season, in that, like, I think it costs my very outsider understanding is that it kind of costs a pretty penny to be in quote E3, and if you are running your own thing and you can just tell Jeff Keighley to co-stream you on Twitch, that it might be economic to do that. This is very strange. I think we have some very weird competition now in this space.
Yeah. Let's see. Cliff Bleszinski might be making a new game. Just FYI, everybody, in case you have forgotten Lawbreakers, as well as what was the 80s one? The Battle Royale one where you rode BMX bikes?
Oh, Heights. Towering Heights? Withering Heights. No, not Withering Heights.
Withering Heights. That's Radical Heights. Radical Heights.
Radical Heights. Okay, I got half of it.
Yeah, so apparently, well, okay, maybe not a game, but Cliff Bleszinski's working on something, and he doesn't want to tell you what it is. I, at this point, think Cliff Bleszinski is a little bit overrated, because I feel like the Gears of War franchise has got like 8 times better since he left. So, suck it, Cliff? I don't know.
He's working on a game. And yeah, I mean, look, when people tell you that they're working on something they can't tell you, you can 90% expect it to be the thing that they're known for. Cliffy B is going to make a new video game, and it'll probably be like a mobile phone game or something. I don't know. But he's going to make a game. He's Cliffy B. What is he going to do? Write a novel? Fuck off.
This we covered on Patreon, but you should get it while you can. So there's this group of really enthusiastic young folks called Team SCU that is making a Metroid Prime 2D remake. So it's basically a 2D version of Metroid Prime. There's a demo out for it right now. It is actually amazing. It's got great graphics. It's got wonderful sound. They've the way it's set up right now is it's a mouse and keyboard game where you move around with WASD and then use your mouse to free aim Samus's shot around, and it's got the scanning from Metroid. It's great. It looks great. It sounds great. This is going to get canceled because Nintendo does not let you make independent products with their fucking IP. So like, I don't know why they didn't wait till this was done, because what was there was amazing and I love it. And I wish it was going to get going, but I feel like the clock has just started. And probably by next week, I'm going to be sitting here telling you, hey, that Metroid Prime thing got taken down.
This is a very stupid move. This
Yep.
is very stupid that they did this. Like, you're right. It looks cool. And also, like, well, if it's not the whole thing, you should have continued to shut up and not told anybody until it was ready to come out.
Yep. 100%. But you guys should go download it and try it. Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe you know what? When I was playing it, what I said is I hope that if they do get a cease and desist from Nintendo, that they take the work they've done, reskin it, change it enough to avoid any copyright issues, and release it, because it seems like a very good take on the Metroid franchise, and I'm a big fan of Metroid stuff. So, bada bing, bang, boom. Crysis Remastered is getting some updates. Well, this is your weekly, like, these are the games getting updates for the Xbox Series X and PS5. So, Crysis Remastered. Will it run Crysis? The answer is yes. Apparently there's going to be three modes for it: performance, quality, and ray tracing for both the Series X and the PS5. So if you're looking to run Crysis on your new console, you could totally do that.
Crysis was a good looking game, but I'm surprised at how, like, the PlayStation 5 doesn't have a 4K option with all of these. That's very strange. I wonder if that's an SDK thing or just like this is a very like quick and dirty patch, but that's strange. This Crysis Remastered is an old game, right? Or was that
no? It came out
the remaster recent
last year, I believe.
Okay.
It was supposed to come out for everything, and then it ended up only coming out for the Switch at first, and then it did finally come out for everything, I believe. So, yeah, and I saw like a Linus Tech Tips video where they tried running the PC version with everything maxed out, and like it was still like they did it on like a 3070, and it was like it ran pretty well. But apparently, even now, like the stuff they've done in the remaster has like a lot of potential for ray traced lighting and like enhanced textures and stuff, to the point where apparently it's still kind of a beast now if you turn everything all the way up. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Less of a beast is Zombie Army 4, which is getting updates for the PS5 and the Series X/S, and it's also on PlayStation Plus for this month. For anybody who doesn't remember, this is the spinoff from the Sniper Elite franchise where you shoot zombies, and it's kind of a Left 4 Dead style. Zombies are coming, you got to do the thing in order to open up the thing to get rid of the map, and it's pretty fun. I played a bunch of it. But yeah, it's getting an update for the Series X and the PlayStation to make it a little better. Not a lot. Probably it doesn't seem like quite as much work done on this. Mostly just that standard thing we're seeing more and more of, where it's like it's 4K and 60 FPS and the load times are super fast, and it's like, well, I'm thumbs up on that. Like, no problem.
It's good that they're doing that. I recently bought Luminous Remastered, which is is a PS4. I think it was PS4. It was a PS4 game, and it's the original Luminous was a PSP game, but it's not a very graphically intense game. It is a lot of 2D puzzling action, and the load times leave something to be desired a little bit. I'm always surprised how long it takes to load up the front menu. Just the menu for this game. So I'll take every update I can.
Yep. I've been playing a lot of I don't know why, but I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Rise. Like that one finally got me, and so it's weird having been playing mostly Series X and PS5 to go back and play a Switch game, and then when I have to load into the map and there's a load time, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're to the trailer part, and I think we're going to save the trailers for part 2, but we're going to go through them real quick. So everybody stick around. We'll be back in just a minute. we're back. And
We're back.
We're a little behind. We're not fully into questions here, but that's all right. We're gonna go fast. We're gonna be like Sonic the Hedgehog, and so we got a bunch of trailers. These are probably gonna go pretty quick. Did you watch this Abandoned announcement trailer?
I did.
This is a PS5 game that's supposed to be kind of like a survival horror shooter.
A cinematic horror survival game, yeah.
Yeah, the trailer for it was kind of weird in that I feel like it was mostly just like pictures of trees in the same sepia tone, like over and over again, and they looked fine. But the developer said they wanted to make it seem like ultra realistic, and I feel like I can't sign off on your ultra realism until I see what a person looks like in this world. But
I think the trailer does a good job of showing off how these kind of like wintered out forest spaces can be, right? They kind of look ugly and sharp, but maybe not very interesting. I would say that the same amount of detail has not quite gone into the smoke or the typefaces in the trailer.
yeah.
But it's interesting. There's definitely a certain amount of fidelity to the pictures that they've put in this trailer.
Yeah.
Teaser, really.
They also talked a little bit in this kind of announcement about how like they want you to have to like be really precise in your aiming and slow, and kind of like if you run, then your hands will shake when you're trying to aim a gun, and I don't know, just kind of like really lean into the realism trip. But I think the most interesting thing about this game is that there's literally this news story that's like, okay, but this is not a secret Hideo Kojima game, we think, y'all, because apparently the game studio that's making this, Blue Box Games, like doesn't have very much of an online footprint, and so there were a lot of people thinking that this was kind of like the Phantom Pain when it originally came out, like a smoke screen for a secret Hideo Kojima game that was going to be coming out. But it doesn't appear that this is the case. It appears that it's mostly just that this game company is very small and they don't have like a really huge online presence. So it's kind of weird that we live in a day and an age where it has to be like, this is not a secret project by this guy, in spite of what you might think. So I don't know.
I've been seeing some of the responses to this of like, I don't get why people don't think this couldn't be a Kojima thing. This is all stuff he's done before. Like, nah, dude, he left breadcrumbs. He left like it's not that just like you've like, this is literally just an indie developer making an Amnesia game, but it's going to have some some human character models in it, and they've never made anything else before. The only other thing on their record is like an early access game that never came out. Kojima wouldn't do that. There would be something here. This is just nothing here. Like you people are so like hungry for Kojima stuff that you will look at nothing and say that that's his design. And no, there's nothing. It's nothing there.
Yes, as a bona fide Hideo Kojima fanboy myself, I will say that I'm not getting anything off of, honestly, Bryce, I'm almost certain that there's going to be some kind of PS5 upgraded, enhanced version of Death Stranding, which is probably what Kojima Productions is working on right now, because I know that there was like some Cyberpunk stuff on the PC version that came out, and there have been some rumors that there's like an enhanced edition coming out for next gen consoles. I would put my money more on that than I would on anything else, considering how much in the past for like all the Metal Gear games and the stuff that Kojima has made, that there's been like that Japanese precedent of putting the game out and then putting out like the international edition, the complete edition, which I feel like, I don't know, I could see that more than I could see this, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not Kojima. Just because PT had a well in a forest doesn't mean all the shitty forests that you see are Hideo Kojima.
People. From there, we got both the announcement and the release of Pac-Man 99, which I believe was on Stadia. It was like a Stadia exclusive that finally released on the Switch last week, and this is kind of like a Tetris 99 thing where you got 99 people that are all playing Pac-Man, and there's this whole thing where you can when you eat the ghosts, it sends those ghosts to other people's games, and so yeah, it's basically Pac-Man Battle Royale. Not being the biggest fan in the world of Pac-Man, I can't really get super excited about this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It looks neat. It looks neat in the way that Tetris 99 is neat. But I guess this is a very weird thing to say about fucking Pac-Man, but I guess it's not as universal as Tetris in terms of a flexible game design.
Yeah.
Because like you have like, oh, what type of power-up do you want? Do you want to be faster or stronger or have I don't know what all of them are. Like they're putting stuff into Pac-Man that isn't in Pac-Man. Tetris 99 is Tetris. That's fucking battle Tetris. There's not a stronger Pac-Man. You don't have a buff Pac-Man, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know. The only Pac-Man I cared about was that God, what was that one that they put out? Is like in the PS3, Xbox 360 era that was like where it kept changing the grid, and then
board.
you would.
Was that Championship Edition?
Yes, which I liked that, but even that I got tired of because I was just like, just go around a maze over and over again, and it gets faster, and then you die eventually. So, we found out that the Overwatch Archives is back for 2021. I'm a little disappointed that there isn't any new. I guess they probably didn't do this last year. That I think there's only 3 of these because these are like the single player co-op matches, kind of like what they're planning for Overwatch 2. So there was one a while back, and then there was a second one and a third one, and now this new one is like has some modifiers, and of course there's some new skins. But I guess when you think about, they're probably busy working on Overwatch 2, that they're not making a lot of new expanded content for Overwatch 1 outside of funky skins and the normal stuff. So
yeah, I didn't really know what to. I'm so out of the loop on Overwatch. So okay, yeah, go for it. Make a little Marie Antoinette Sombra. I don't know. Go for it.
Yep. They're very weird. These like historical throwback costumes that look like Revolutionary War, Napoleonic, Soldier 76 Napoleonic. And it's like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. Some USA chants going on in the 76 household tonight.
Yeah.
Is that like a musket too? That looked like a musket gun skin for Agent 76.
I believe so. We also got the launch trailer for the Giorno Giovanna addition to Jump Force. Bryce, do you JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Have you ever JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
No. No. I hear it's great. No, that's not for me, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really either. I've tried multiple times and it's just not really my thing. I am interested though. I like the fact that they've gotten to the point where as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure goes on longer, the character designs get more and more fabulous, and this is one of the more fabulous versions of the JoJo franchise. So I don't know.
Is this a newer character? Because I feel like I have seen that hairstyle with the little whoops,
little curlies in the front,
forehead. Yeah. It's my understanding has always been kind of a fabulous sort of over the top, flamboyant design.
I feel like in the beginning, all of the JoJo's characters are beefier, and then as they go on, they get a little bit more fabulous, a little slimmer. But I don't know. Again, I'm not. This guy is like the 5th series JoJo character. There's some JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fans right now are just pulling their faces off. Just
they
like
hate this segment.
say less. Move on.
Okay.
I like I don't want to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I love the freaking crazy character designs for it. So. Let's see. From there, Children of Morta is getting kind of a challenge pack mode. I mostly included this to say to everybody that Children of Morta is awesome and everybody should go play it. This mode just seems like it's mostly kind of a combat challenge mode, which I don't know, but it's free, so everybody can go get it. But Children of Morta is great, and you should go play it. Let's see. We got a release date for Alex Kidd and Miracle World DX, which is the full kind of remake of Alex Kidd, which is coming June 24th. And looks just as good as some of the, what was the last one? Was the Dragon Kid or whatever?
Oh, I think it's Dragon Boy.
Yeah. Which this looks like a really, really good, like it's still kind of sprite based, but they've made all the sprites like very colorful and very cool looking. I never played Alex Kidd, so I don't know. And then let's see, we got My Shirani trailer for King of Fighters 15. I don't know if I'm the only person in the world who is very excited, because I was strangely I found King of Fighters 14 to be like very engaging and a very fun game. Like, I never really been into King of Fighters, but the King of Fighters 14 like kind of tutorial and playing it, like I really liked it. Like, it has this really nice balance between, there's like auto combos that are just built in, but they're not as strong as regular combos. So like if you're just a button masher, you can play it, but then there's also like all this really deep tech stuff for it. I think it's kind of ridiculous that they put this trailer out, because I mean, of course Mai's going to be in fucking King of Fighters. Like, she's one of the major, be like, oh, we're not putting Terry Bogard in King of Fighters. It's like, yeah, of course. We got a Kickstarter trailer for Fish Keeper, an aquarium simulator. I kind of put this on here this week because I felt bad when I went to their Kickstarter, because as of right now, like, they're at $1,800 of a $60,000 goal. They got 28 days left to go. So if you're into having a virtual aquarium video game where you could put a little submarine in your aquarium and drive around and look at fish, make your aquarium the way you want to, I guess maybe go check it out.
Yeah. This looks cool. I like the idea of like, okay, you play a little sub and you're cleaning a fish tank and you're getting super close to these high def fish, and you're like building a tank and I guess managing all the decorations and stuff. But I think, you talk about demographics, right? And how much are you shaving? Okay, you're looking at gamers, and you're looking at gamers who are into aquariums and want to be in the aquarium. And it looks like they put a lot of work into it. It looks very neat if you are into fish.
Yeah, I hope they get it. I don't know. We also saw this Kickstarter trailer for Unbeatable, which is interesting because this Kickstarter was like funded and way over its goal like day one. They were looking for $55K and they are at 92 as of recording this. Did you actually get a chance to watch this trailer, Bryce?
I did. You know what this reminded me a lot of? I have a weird thing about rhythm games and how proprietary they are. And I think this one is pretty proprietary in terms of like it's set up like a big combat. But you know what this reminds me a lot of is, did you ever play, is it one finger death punch? It's the game where you play with the mouse and you just click left or right based on which side the enemies are on, and you do the timing. It reminded me a lot of that, except this is like explicitly a rhythm game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get that, because it's only two things. It's like up or down, and then there's like a little bit of, it's kind of the dive kick of rhythm games.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that what I was watching this, and I really like the anime aesthetic they've got going on. Like it was an article that was I found through Polygon talking about it. It was comparing it to Promare, which it does kind of have a little bit of that like kind of Studio Trigger loose, open kind of action vibe to it. And then I really liked the songs that were in the Kickstarter trailer. Like, I'm a real sucker for that kind of, I don't know, just alt pop Japanese music. So I don't know. It looked good.
It looks neat. This is something I would like to try a demo of because I don't know. I'm particular about rhythm games and how they interact with music games. I guess this is probably more of a music game than a rhythm game. I don't know. But it looks neat. It's got a lot of charisma that a lot of Kickstarter things don't have.
Yep. Actually, and if you're into that, I guess this is just an ad for this game, is next, well, it's supposed to be this week, but it's not technically out yet, but they're putting out a thing called Unbeatable White Label on Steam, which is supposed to be a free prologue demo that you can play. So there you go.
Nice.
You can totally try it out ahead of time.
Oh, and it looks like, I guess, one of their stretch goals is where you can make custom beat maps. You can make your own, I guess, I don't know if it's custom music too, or just you can make your own custom map to the songs that are in the game. But that is a very interesting thing, because once you get rhythm game communities into making custom stuff, then that's really where a game like that opens up completely.
Yeah. And then let's see. We also got a few other updates here. Curse of the Dead Gods is getting a Dead Cells like kind of crossover update. I remember playing Curse of the Dead Gods a long time ago and liking it. It was kind of a roguelike. And I remember it being, there was this very like kind of risk reward thing of getting these curses that would make you more powerful, but also you die faster and stuff like that. Mostly I included this because I'm a huge fan of Dead Cells. So anything that says Dead Cells I like, but it's a free update that's coming pretty soon. We also got a trailer for Mr. X Nightmare DLC for Streets of Rage 4, which is an amazing game, and everybody should totally play it, which is going to add another character that was a boss in Streets of Rage 4, as well as some kind of challenge maps and some new items, and the ability to make custom loadout, like custom move sets for the different characters, so kind of adding different specials and stuff like that. Streets of Rage 4 was absolutely amazing, and I love it to pieces. It was the best beat 'em up I played in years. So no release date or price on that just yet. Let's see. Deadly Premonition 2 is coming to the PC, where hopefully it won't run like total garbage. I am not a Deadly Premonition fan, but you know, I know the people that really are, and so maybe this is like a good definitive version of Deadly Premonition 2 that runs well. Do you switch? Do you have a Switch, Bryce?
I've got a Switch, yeah, okay. But I'm also not a Deadly Premonition fan, really. So it's good that it's getting port. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Deathloop. We only have one of these this week. Deathloop is delayed until September. It was originally supposed to be out May 21st this year, and now it's going to be out September 14th. I remember reading this today when I was getting this story put into the kind of the news segments, and it occurred to me that like I just don't believe that any game is coming out until it's out anymore, because it's just kind of to me, it's like a sucker's bet. There's everything gets delayed or pushed or moved or whatever, that it's like it's easier just to assume that it's probably not going to be out until it's like the week before it's supposed to come out. But
and this is so, it was going to be May 21st. I mean, that's a little over a month away, and now it's been pushed almost 6 months out. Mm-hmm. Like that's that's a sort of staggering. That's cutting it close. I mean, the Cyberpunk December delay was really cutting it close, but this is still relatively shocking to see a big delay like this so close to release date. I mean, and I would definitely say, because the very first thing I thought of, which is just crazy, is that this has anything to do with the Microsoft ZeniMax acquisition, and there's definitely no way that has got anything to do with it.
It seems to me almost like when they talk in their announcement, they say we're committed to quality and preserving our team's ambitions for Deathloop while ensuring health and safety of everyone at Arcane. We'll be using this extra time to accomplish our goal, create a fun, stylish, and mind-bending player experience. It seems to me like the sort of thing where they maybe had a certain amount of time for that, the end of development crunch, bug fixes and stuff like that, and that probably the pandemic, maybe the acquisition, who knows what else is actually going on in the world, has just slowed it to a point where it's like, we just need a little extra time to make sure, because I don't think any developer at this point wants to be the next person to put out their big game and it turns out you did it too soon and it's totally full of bugs and it's crap. So
yeah, especially I would say probably for Arcane, who I will bet will be under the microscope even more because of the ZeniMax acquisition. If they put out a crappy game that has got some sort of PlayStation deal like Deathloop does,
yeah,
well, look at Microsoft being so petty to just throw out this game, just throw it out and finish their contract. Like, I think they also know that is in the mix if this thing comes out unfinished, uncooked.
Yeah. And then last but not least, a couple fun things. There is a very beautiful Demon Souls vinyl release that I don't know. I would be lying if I didn't say that I considered buying this, even though I do not have a turntable. I do not have plans to purchase a turntable. I just kind of want this cool picture of the Maiden in Black. I know that a lot of Demon Souls purists have real serious problems with the music in the PS5 version because they're so used to the previous version. I'm unobservant, Oliver over here. It didn't, like, people are just like, oh, they changed this one theme and it totally doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm just like, I didn't notice anything at all. I just played the game and beat all the bosses. So
did you see on this Kotaku article, they've got, I guess, some different variants in their image gallery or something. So like the gold one, that is, I guess, the standard one, looks really cool. But I guess they have quite a few different color options.
Oh yeah, look at that. Of the actual vinyl itself, there's some
disc.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I don't know. I'm just very anti-stuff, Bryce. I don't like to own things. Like, I really need to throw away about 30% of what I own. Like, I just have closets full of crap that I'm never going to touch again. And I just need to take everything out of all of my closets and throw most of it away. I've never really thrown away any of the clothes that I've purchased over my 35 years of independent life, and they're mostly all in one closet in my house, and I need to get rid of them because I'm not going to wear, those like back in like the early 2000s, how they had this there's like really thin, like a V-neck, and it had looked like almost like an engraved, like the plaque on an old building, but it was like this real distressed gothic kind of writing on the front of it. I got like 4 or 5 of those shirts that I wore back in that time. I don't wear those anymore. So I don't need more stuff.
Don't buy these, Jeff. Don't buy these.
Done. And speaking of music, if you, like everybody else, are obsessed with Lil Nas X right now, apparently Lil Nas X put out a Twerk Hero game online that you can play, which is exactly what it sounds like, where you basically are able to, it's a rhythm game that is based entirely on twerking up, down, left, and right, on the with Montero playing in the background, and so you can get your twerk on. I've kind of missed the entire saga of Montero outside of reaction stuff. I should probably go listen to the song at some point just because everybody's talking about it, but
it's like, I don't think it's super catchy compared to like Old Town Road or Panini or even the holiday song. But the music video, like, is really impressive. Like, it is inspired with a capital I in terms of telling this kind of biblical, journey to hell. And it's not very long. That's the other nice thing, is that music nowadays is very short. I think Montero itself is only like 2 minutes or something. So it's also like, it's weird to say, but like, if you haven't checked it out, it's not going to take up a lot of your time to have the kind of first-hand experience with it.
Okay. Well, I'll have to watch it and report back. I guess I'm a YouTuber, so I'm supposed to like watch the
Jeff reacts to Montero.
Yeah, watch the thing and then say what I think about the thing that I watched. I don't know. That's
Actually, don't do that. We got a copyright takedown for doing that on Night Attack.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
I know. Weird.
All right. Well, hey, as promised, we do have some time for questions. Let's do some questions. All right. So our first one this week comes in from Donnie from North Carolina, NC. I don't know.
Yep.
Who says, okay, so maybe a few of us are heathens of Dongacles and hate when we see eggs go to triple their costs. Oh, yeah, I said it, times 3. And rejoice with ham going half off. His great shaft be praised and shiny. I assume these are all Easter references. With that being said, there are more than a few games and mods for said games that have active economies that fluctuate or can be broken with a little work. Insert Skyrim joke here. What games have you and your delightful co-host seen that had you spending hours playing with the economy or setting up shop? Recently, my son, also a huge fan from Loading Bar days, I'm sure I'm on some watch list for that, got his wife Stardew Valley when he has played numerous games. Even he has not played farming sims. I hadn't played them until 3 or 4 years ago when I went down the Stardew rabbit hole myself, hence the question. Thanks, and that's from Donnie. I was thinking about this question before, Bryce. I don't know that I've actually gotten... I think that like the only time I've really gotten into breaking a game's economy, I've never like wanted to game the capitalism of a game in order to buy the stuff. I usually just go online and be like, how do I earn the most money? Monster Hunter Rise 2021. And then like watch that YouTube video. Hey guys, I'm going to teach you how to get all the money you need in Skyrim. I mean, in Skyrim, there's that one chest in Skyrim that's like it's a merchant chest, but it's accidentally, you can point at a place in the ground and get his inventory out of it, because the merchants in Skyrim don't keep their inventory on them, so you can't pickpocket them. So there's a hidden chest in the ground, and there's one area where you can walk up to a rock and like position your cursor and take the entire inventory, go sell it, sleep for 24 hours, it all restores, go sell it again, and then infinity. You have infinity. So
that's clever. I do this a lot. I like playing businessy management kind of games. So like right now, contemporarily, I'm playing Evil Genius 2, which is like basically like a city building game with management stuff. And I don't want to do the like fighting and the quests and stuff. I just want to keep making money. But this, in fact, your story reminded me a lot of, do you remember you could do this with Fable, the original Fable? Because Fable has a supply and demand system. And if you had enough money, you could go to a merchant, buy out, a ton of whatever they had. And once the game realized, oh, there's no more supply, you can go and it would increase the price at least a little bit for whatever the item you bought. And so you could do that a lot, especially with high value items. But even, I think, to Donnie's question, like even games that you don't require breaking, I've gotten into. Like, did you ever play is it Rogue Outlaw? Not Rogue Legacy, but the space shipping, the space kind of Western shipping game. I think it was Rogue Outlaw.
Yes.
I spent. Is that it? No. Outlaw.
Space Sim. It's something Outlaw. Rebel Galaxy.
That's it. Rebel Galaxy.
Yeah.
I probably put in about 10 hours into Rebel Galaxy, and I never got out of the main starting solar system because I knew the second I made a jump, it would give me a bunch of story bullshit, and it would give me like more enemies and stuff. So I would just like hang out and like just do runs between planets. Kind of a similar thing for No Man's Sky, but that's kind of more the crux of that game. I like that kind of stuff. That's what I really liked a lot about Death Stranding. That is what Death Stranding is. Like 80% of it is like doing runs and building infrastructure. That shit's cool. I like that.
it's funny that you mentioned Rogue Galaxy or Rebel Galaxy, because I remember I didn't play Outlaw, but I played the first one a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I think that for me, it's always been like whenever there's, when they have those space privateer games and it's like, you could be a bounty hunter, or you could be a trader, or you could be a miner. And I'm like, the first one, I want the first one where I blow up the ships and take all their stuff and then sell all that stuff.
I would like to be Boba Fett, please.
Yes, go blow up more stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really gotten into any of the farming games either, as they're just... I've always said that I feel like there are some people that play games because they want to chill out and relax, and like those are the people who like to play The Sims, and then there's people like me who are too chilled out and too relaxed all the time, and I'm just about to fall asleep 24/7, so I need a game where I have to blow up ninja, space marine, super mutant, whatever, ghosts, just constantly. I need constant frontal stimulation in my lobes, and I need it to be hit the reload button and blow it all to hell. So I don't know.
The thing I don't like about like Stardew Valley, is definitely like one of those types of games, kind of on the nose. The thing I don't like about Stardew Valley is all the stuff that's not the farming. I don't like going into the caves. I don't want to do combat. Can I farm? Can I fucking farm? Like, that's what I want. And maybe that makes it too like banal and very like pattern oriented, but give me one of these that's not like you got to go fight a bunch of slimes now. No, I want to grow tomatoes, dude.
Oh, that's funny. Let's see. Next up, we have a variety of questions from the Unknown Ronin, who says, "Dear Rage Select, since I heard you guys were in need of some questions, I figured I'd send some. One, have you guys heard about the free DLC update that went out for House Flipper on Steam? The one where you can clean, repair, and sell the Kame house from the Dragon Ball franchise. And if so, are you planning on doing a video for it?" Bryce, you shook your head, so I assume that you didn't. We actually reported this last week on the podcast. This was like an April Fool's joke that ended up being real.
Fun.
And I thought about doing it, but I haven't played enough House Flipper, so I'm still in the part of the game where like I barely have the ability to like paint the walls, and I'm like,
well, real work.
Yeah, I don't think this would be very good to do.
House Flipper's good. That's another money economy game.
Have you played The Tenants?
No. What is The Tenants? Is that the HGTV version of House Flipper?
No.
I know there's like a literal HGTV version of House Flipper. Maybe that's like another DLC thing.
No, it's a game that came out that's kind of in a similar vein, but it's like you are redoing the houses from a third person perspective and then renting them out to tenants for money. And Grant and I played a little bit of it. And so various things come up, but you like set the rent and you can, it's a little weird because you're like furnishing at a rental property, which I feel like isn't a thing, but everybody so far really likes it. It just came out like late last month.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. We may play that Kame house thing soon, but I would have to play more House Flipper in order for that to happen. So, a while back, you mentioned doing sponsored videos for Patreon. If that's still an option, could we sponsor you to play and finish Doom Eternal: The Ancient Gods Part 2? And if the answer is no, how much money would it take to finish the DLC? Would $1,000 be enough? Or would it be like the promise you mentioned on your Kakarot video where you do a full sequential of the game once you reach 9,000 patrons on Patreon? I actually think that we said that if our Patreon income was over 9,000, that then we would do a full playthrough for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, because I do run a weird YouTube business and I can be bought for money, and like, I don't know.
What is the price? What is your price for doing Doom Eternal Part 2?
God, I don't. You know what? I'll be honest. Like, the thing is that I could probably like the problem that I'm going to run into is that Amanda and I have played through. We played through all of Doom 2016, and then we played through all of Doom Eternal, and we played all the way through Doom Eternal: Ancient Gods Part 1. And by the end of Doom Eternal: Ancient Gods Part 1, we were bored of Doom. We were just like going through the motions. We put it on easy. I don't give a fuck. Let's just finish this. And so Part 2 came out, and so it's really that thing that happens sometime on Rage Select where we end up doing basically a podcast while I'm playing a game at the same time. I just don't know if I could subject Amanda to 4 or 5 parts of Ancient Gods. I've really come to kind of despise Doom with the Doom Eternal. Like, I love
it's very self-serious in a way that I just don't understand. Like, I actually did not play Doom 2016, but I started playing Doom Eternal, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's fine, like the shooting's good, but it's so not what Doom should be. I think I don't know, I guess I don't have a dog in the fight.
The thing for me is that I felt like they put all these rules in Doom Eternal that, like, okay, well, you know, when I first started playing Doom Eternal, we had a hell of a time with the spiders, with the arachnotrons or whatever they were, right? And then somebody in the comments was like, for God's sake, just shoot the turret on their back with the shotgun grenade launcher, right? Like, if you hit the turret on their back with the grenade launcher, it sticks to it, it blows it up, it really takes their fangs away, and then you can beat them. Well, the thing is, everything in that game is like that. Like, every enemy has a tooltip where it's like, oh, this is a armored mancubus, so you need to use your blood punch to take the armor off so you can fight them. And like, for a mancubus, you need to shoot the hands because they're the guns, right? So if you shoot the hands with the sniper rifle version of the machine gun, then you can de-arm them and you can get them to a point where you can kill them real fast. But the problem is that if you don't do that, they're a serious pain in the ass if you don't follow the checklist of how you're supposed to kill this enemy. And so it just becomes like, and I feel like they tried to make up for that, like that direction following by throwing a huge number of enemies at you, and that you just have to internalize the way to kill each type of enemy. And so I don't know, it just kind of became like, I feel like it started to wander, like the story became inscrutable and I had no idea what the fuck was going on. And then the gameplay became this thing where it's just like, okay, do this and then this and then this and then they die. So I don't know. I'll ask Amanda. Maybe you should. Maybe I'll tell Amanda can give me her price, and then I can tell you if you can add whatever that is to our Patreon. Then we'll go back and play it.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah. Right now, Matt and I are playing It Takes Two, and that game is wonderful. It is delightful. I love it. Good. And then 3, do you ever go back? These are all questions. You need more general questions, Unknown Runner. I feel like, Bryce, do you ever go back and watch your own videos on YouTube? And if so, are there any episodes that you consider to be your favorites? It says, for me, I find rewatching your Aviary Attorney stream at least once a month. It's such a great Let's Play to listen to while I'm working on something else. Hope these questions helped the show, and thanks for reading. So did you ever play Aviary Attorney where it's like... I'm
guessing it's a Hatoful boyfriend version of Ace Attorney.
Sort of, yeah. It's like, but all the pictures are like these very kind of Victorian lithograph versions of animals in court. And so we did it for a live stream. We did all kinds of funny voices for each one of them.
That's fun.
So that was fun. Do you go back and watch the stuff that you're on, and just some of the Night Attack stuff, or?
You know, I'll go back when we do a good episode of the show. I will go and, like, if I remember I had a good joke, I'll make sure I clip it on Twitch. And so sometimes I'll go back and watch good clips of like jokes or it's a lot of things that I've said. But I also had occasion to do it with like Scam Nation, our YouTube channel, to go back and watch some of those again. And that stuff holds up. I do it occasionally. I try not to do it too much because I want to feel fresh. I don't like to be very hyper self-referential or a ton of callbacks. I don't like it, just that's kind of not my kind of comedy and editorial style. And so every so often I do this a lot with music. Music is the one, because I haven't done music in many years. And so I'll go and listen to like an old album of mine or just an old track I've put out and be like, oh man, yeah, I used to put some work into that. And just remembering like the process of making it and all the little intricacies of the little parts of it. That's kind of a nice kind of nostalgia that I'll let myself have every so often.
I think the 2 times that I end up or well, I used to I when I used to watch stuff that I did a lot, it was when I was doing animation for Spill back in the old days, because it's like, I would spend an entire week working on the 90-second cutaway. And there's something about making, I don't know, I guess it technically counts as art, this whole kind of like entertaining back and forth, doing your stuff, playing a game and you're making some jokes while you're doing it. But like that was like taking something that was nothing. And then by the end of the week, you have this like this whole thing. And like a lot of times they were these, they weren't even my jokes, right? They were somebody else's jokes that you were kind of putting life to. And so I would go back and watch some of those because I'm like, damn, man, I can't even believe how good that turned out, which I feel like when you do more of an abstraction, like not making a joke, right? But more of like a painting a picture. Like when I drew back in the old days, sometimes I would draw a picture and then I would just go back and look at it and be like, damn, I didn't even know I could do that. But then I feel like at the end of the year, I always do the best of for Rage Select. And so I'll go back and like think about which episodes I thought were the best and then watch some of them and be like, oh no, that one was really good. I need to put that one in there. And there'll be a couple, sometimes there'll be a thing where we're doing a video where it hits just right. And I'll go back and watch, one little section of it over and over again and be like, nope, that was good. That was good.
When you just know, like, oh man, I was on it. I just had that everything worked out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the Twitch clips thing for me. It's like, oh my God, I can watch this 20-second exchange 10 times and then I will. So you'll see some clips on our Night Attack page that have surprisingly high view rates, maybe.
I used to go back and rewatch some of the intros that we used to do back when I did the puppet intros more, because there were some of those, like I did one for...
You put a lot of work into those.
Yeah, there was like the one for Thimbleweed Park that I did where I spent an entire weekend like reanimating my puppet in the style of Thimbleweed Park for an intro. Wow. There was of course, back in the old days, when Jason and I played the original Battlefront, I did this hellaciously time-intensive. I put us in the cantina in Star Wars and recreated all the music and like. So there's some of those that were very good. Yeah. But I don't do the puppet intros anymore, which, just as a side note, I feel like I was talking with somebody recently. I don't know if people realize this, Bryce, but like we did an original like joke intro and outro for like every video that Rage Select put out for like 3 or 4 years straight, like at least like 2 or 3 years. And then I stopped and then I went back to doing it again. And sometimes people are like, I miss the puppet intros. And I'm like, I just ran out of fucking jokes and started having to fall back on like, just either the puppet punches you or you punch the puppet. We'll just do that one again. Or like, oh, lots of swearing.
We had that with you probably remember this. We had that with Scam School where we would have we had a sponsor who we just always had because it's this long-term deal, and so based off of Brant, who's one of our other producers, he wanted to do fun little things, so he would do a skit every week for Scam School. Yeah. And when I started, it was like, hey, we do like a skit for every week, and they don't really, the word was like they don't really care too much as long as you say like the URL and the promo code somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. They are really, really flexible about what you can put in these things. And at some point it was, I think it was near the end of Scam School before we rebranded to Scam Nation, where it was like, and it was me and you, and then mostly me just at the end. I was like, I can't do that. I'm out of ideas. We will. It was at a point where we were running old ads, and sometimes people would notice, sometimes people wouldn't really care. And then we've moved on to doing straight, because it's a lot of work. It would doing those little ads would take as much time conceptually and technically as putting the rest of the video together. Mm-hmm. And you do it for a long time, and you kind of, you kind of, I don't know, chew your teeth on it for a little while. That's not a turn of phrase at all. You would go through your paces on it, and then you look back and you're like, oh my God, we did that for like 4 years, just constantly coming up with new ideas for things. Yep. And it was very cool. And also it's a very big ask, especially as just things change. So like I completely sympathize. Like, they're cool, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think that it's funny. I don't know how. I mean, I feel like it's weird in that I don't know that everybody can understand this, but like when I was doing editing for Scam School, it was like the editing was time consuming, but it was kind of like I knew what I was doing. The structure was there. You knew what you were doing. You're putting it together. Then I would get it done, right? You put in the music, you put in all the stuff, and you got the color grading and all that stuff, and you've done the whole episode. And then it would be like, a lot of times it was editing kind of down to the last minute, trying to get it done. And then it was like the hardest part was trying to figure out like an episode name, a thumbnail that hadn't been done a bunch of times before, because those required like, I don't know, there's just a thing where when you're producing original anything for a long enough amount of time, you're going to run through your whole brain of ideas. Like, you've got all the stuff that you always wanted to do, and then you're trying to come up with new stuff, and then you're trying to squeeze blood out of a stone, and then you're just like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I would just just open up Rhyme Zone and start typing stuff in to try to come up with something that rhymed. And
because it's important too.
Yeah,
like that's some part of it is like to a certain degree, like having a good quality video helps in the long term because people know that you make good videos.
Right.
But a lot of it is like you do have to have a good title and you have to have a good thumbnail, and those are I think unfortunately, but naturally disproportionately, or rather, they are so important. And they so much don't necessarily reflect how good the video or the content is. And so it's tough. It used to be back, I think probably before you started doing Scam School, when we would throw to break, there would be you'd have to come up with a little text tagline for like, coming up, untangling this twisty.
Oh yeah,
you'd have to come up with like another creative thing in the middle of it. It's like, what do I even do? Just like Brant and I have talked about this on our Bizarre Briefing podcast, but it's like at some point it's very tough because it's kind of a regimented formula for that show.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
I mean, I often wonder whether people understand that, like, I feel sometimes I'll get up and I'm trying to get the daily video for Rage Select done, or even like a podcast or whatever. And like, I just sit there for 40 minutes looking at the YouTube description, because I've written the description for every piece of content that we've put out, which is 10 videos and a podcast every week for 8 years. Like, I've made every pun I can think of. I've referenced every movie I've ever seen. Like, every so often, it's just like, I don't know what else to put in here. And it comes to I don't know. I guess it's interesting when you think about like previous, like, you think about the way that media was created before, right? And like, okay, you come up with a season of a television show, even like The Simpsons, right? But you have like people that rotate in and they rotate out, and then like you got a writer's room, and what about this joke? What about this joke? But a lot of times on the internet, this stuff falls onto like one person who does it over and over for a long time, and so it can kind of get a little
and dear listeners, do not like I would hesitate to take all of this and translate it into it wasn't worth the effort, or we stopped doing it because it was not as efficient a way to do. Like, it is better to have like gotten kind of long in the tooth with something and then stopped, than at least
ride it all the way down.
Yeah, keep going until it totally burns out, right? I mean, you talk about The Simpsons, and The Simpsons is maybe the most long in the tooth anything, and they keep doing it, and they like you said, they have people come in and out, and they keep going at bats. But I think that there is value to being a person who recognizes I am kind of tapped in this way. And if I keep adhering myself to this structure, I'm going to become even more formulaic. Like, you might think that there's an aesthetic or a vibe or a guide on how to do something here, but there will be a flipping point where it's like we're redoing the same jokes, or we're completely cribbing from old stuff. And I know for me, like I mentioned earlier, like I don't like that. This is bad for a podcaster, but I don't like telling the same stories over and over again. I don't like hearing the same stories over and over again. I appreciate and value, or not. I guess technically the word would be originality, and with stuff that I do, I've got things that people have said that they would love me to come back to, and I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. And in absence of figuring out the way to do it differently, or in a way that feels like kind of uncharted territory, like that's where it is. It's not that it wasn't good, and it's not that I couldn't do more of it, but you have to let some things go so that you can pick up other newer things.
Yeah. It also, I mean, like, just briefly going back to the puppet thing, like, there was a time when I was spending as much time doing the 30-second intro and the 30-second outro. Not as much time. I was spending enormously longer on those tiny pieces than the whole 40 minutes of game that we were doing. And then another thing that while you were talking, I guess I was thinking about was the other thing that's been really weird for me is that, when I first started doing all this stuff, this is all like kind of branch off this one topic, but like when I first started doing all this stuff, it's like I had all of my life when I started trying to be an entertainer to like tell all the stories, right? Everybody's got their stories. And then like as you're doling out one story a week, and then you're out there living your life, but then like as the pressure for running this whole thing by myself became more intense, like I've heard from time to time people lament that I don't live stream for 2 hours on Sunday, right? But I used to do that all the time. But like there was a point in time when we had 11 videos a week and a live stream on Sunday and the same 2-hour podcast and puppet intros and outros on every one of them. And what happens is that I didn't have time to have a life. And then it became the sort of thing where it's like, I can't even talk about, like, over 2020, it was challenging because none of us could go outside or do anything, but I could at least talk about like the latest TV shows and movies because everybody was sitting inside watching TV shows and movies, right? There's kind of a common point, but like, God, 2018, 2017, all I did was wake up and work on Rage Select until I was so tired that I fell asleep, and then get back up and do it all over again. And so it was like, well, I would start reaching for stuff to even talk about. I used to go out and do crazy shit in the world. I'd be like, I went to the hipster peppermint store last week. Let me tell you all about it. But it was like, no, I got up and I worked on this website until I couldn't keep my eyes open, and then I went to sleep. And so scaling back, I'm really hoping somebody a few weeks back said, don't lord your COVID vaccination like it's some of us don't have access to it yet. I apologize, but like I got my second shot a week ago, and like the day after my birthday is 2 weeks after that, and I'm really itching to like, I've been very conscientious about staying inside and doing stuff, but I really want to go back out into the world and do stuff that is not just driving through to get food and walking my dog and picking up groceries every week. So I don't know.
Yeah, I completely sympathize. I'm in the middle of my vaccine schedule, and would love to go do something, and would love to be safe, and equally like the COVID specifically. It's like I have Canadian friends, and Canada is not on the same uptick, on the same pace as the U.S. in terms of vaccinating people, and so I completely recognize that like some of my Canadian friends got scheduled in June. They know they got a date, and it's in June, and it will be a while.
Yeah.
And so dear listener, yes, it's a lot, not to mention the vaccine all around the world, but it's tough. And this conversation comes out of love. It comes out of like, we love doing these things, and we
Yeah.
can't. We'd rather keep doing them in a different way than fall into hate with it, right? To resent it. That's very difficult, and it's a very real thing that happens, right? We talk about burnout, and this is a part of burnout.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's specific. I mean, I think you can look at, there are tons of online personalities who you can see after a certain amount of time, if they go hard and never stop, that eventually you'll see them hit that, like, I have to stop. Like, I can't keep doing it because it's either going to make me hate it or I'm not gonna have it anymore. So, I mean, the nice thing is, like, fucking playing video games is fun, right? So, like, playing video games and hanging out with my friends, it's been very nice to be able to have the opportunity to do that, even during the whole 2020 thing, because we kind of had a very small circle. Everybody was very safe, making sure that if anybody was exposed, that we would then, like, record remote for a little while to make sure that people were safe. But it was very nice to just have an excuse every week to just hang out with people that I knew and either talk about games or play some games. And hopefully that's what comes through when you're watching this stuff. But let's see. Okay, let's do a few Discord questions over here. Okay. Kate Josie writes in and says, Dear Jeff and Bryce, I'm a third of the way through Dune, and I'm not sure if I enjoy it yet. There are aspects I like about it, but it reads slow for me. When do you stop reading a book so that you can move on to something else? Also, am I about to hit the stride of the story, or am I just in it for a long, drawn-out, slow, intense read? This isn't as old as a lot of the questions. This one's only a month old. Let's see. Have you
read Dune? No, I haven't read Dune, but I know when it comes to like TV shows or movies, I guess get more of a pass because they're usually a one and done thing. But with TV shows, when I can feel it, then I go with that feeling, and that's usually watch something, not stop watching this, but start watching something else. Watching something bad will tell me that there's something I'd rather be watching. And it doesn't even necessarily mean bad things. Like the other day, I turned on that Hulu movie Nomadland, and I realized like 5 minutes into it that I wasn't paying attention to it because I was playing a video game at the same time. So I was like, okay, I need to throw something else on, and I picked something else. So like for me, I don't like playing losing games, and that is a part of it.
Yeah, well, Dune is like my favorite book. I read it once every couple of years. I'll just read through the entire series. I've read it more than any other book that I've ever read in my life. So I can say that if you're not enjoying it early, you're probably not going to enjoy it later. It's a very just like everybody's in their head and these very complicated science fiction kind of meta plans within plans, Machiavellian craziness. Like, I don't think that there's a part in Dune where it like picks up quotey fingers. Like, I don't think it like, now you got to get to chapter 4 and then it really gets off to the races. Like, I think that it kind of just stays the same way it is. And if you're not feeling it now, it might not be a bad idea. I mean, definitely like, it doesn't get any crazier than the first book until the Worm Emperor shows up. So like that's 3 books. That's the 4th book in the series. So if you're not super into it in the first one, I'd say go read something else. There are plenty of good books out there. Let's see. The Rainframe says, "G'day, Jeff and Bryce. I watched your Beautiful Joe videos where Jeff pointed out that he'd rather just be rewarded by his progress in the game as opposed to earning in-game currency to buy new moves. So it got me thinking, what reward systems are your favorite? Grinding for in-game currency quickly gets boring, and unlocking things based on progress feels too hand-holdy. So I feel like it when a game rewards me for my accomplishments, like unlocking things by beating specific challenges. Stay classy, oh great prophets of the Dong Lord." And that is from The Rainframe. This was, I mean, just kind of my overall... I guess I was also talking about games like Devil May Cry, where it's like, you know, I guess you can get an advantage early on if you replay a level to get the currency, because you get the currency every time you beat the level. So you can literally like grind the level to get moves. And The move thing, I think, is just a tuning thing where you could change the amount of rewards I'm getting to make sure that, like, oh, you're definitely going to have enough at the end of this level to get the next thing. But then in a lot of those kind of character action games, I feel like there are health items and then continues that if you run out of them, then you're just going to get a game over. And then if you have an especially hard boss, you might need to go like grind a level to get the cash to buy the thing to help you finish it. And it's never been all that satisfying to me. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I always, when I play like an action adventure, an action game, kind of like Devil May Cry, for example, like if you show me a shop menu full of all these combos, I'm not going to know what to get. I'm not going to know what to pick. Like, honestly, especially specifically like fighting games where, if you get this move, you can do, up triangle and then triangle, and then you'll do like an uppercut. I don't know what to do with that. So, and I maybe that's just because I'm not the right person for it, but I feel like that's such like a broad way games have been designed for certain genres that maybe there are people out there who more intuitively understand, like, oh yes, this is a combo I'm doing a lot, and this is something that I would like to get. I'm fine with getting currency to buy things, but I think you made a good point of like, it would just be better if I need something, that you make it so that I intuitively find my way to the thing, instead of giving me a shop option of all these different moves and things. And that's a very specific thing, a very specific genre, though.
You know what I think it might be, thinking about it more for like a Beautiful Joe Devil May Cry, is that I was thinking about how there are games like God of War, or like Horizon Zero Dawn, or stuff like that, where like there are upgrade systems in place that you can cash in, like in-game things that you've earned in order to purchase new moves and stuff. And I don't have a problem with those, but I think that a lot of the reason for that is because the shop part is accessible at all times. Like, you don't have to hit the end of the level to spend. There's not that weird delineation where you can, like, in the middle of a level buy the uppercut and then immediately start using it and go, oh wow, this made this whole level like way easier than it was before. I also think that I'm just a more of a fan of like unlocking stuff faster. Like the Devil May Cry and even Bayonetta, which I love, and kind of Beautiful Joe in the same way. I guess it always felt like the amount of currency you needed to get the next thing seemed very high. And maybe also I didn't like it because it was tied into like your performance. Like in Devil May Cry, how if you get a triple S on that encounter, like you get bonus red orbs that then allow you. It's like a rich get richer thing, right? Like if you're good at Devil May Cry, you're going to level up super fast. But if you kind of suck at it, then you're not going to level up as fast, which is not going to give you the tools that you need to get better at the game. And so then your option is to go back and replay things over and over again, which not as big a fan. I don't know. Yeah. All right, one more here. Professor Fett writes in, we can't have a Rage Site podcast without bitching about the Snyder Cut. Did you ever watch the Snyder Cut, Bryce? Did you binge watch it?
No, I will not do this. No.
Good job. Good job. Professor Fett writes in and says, yo, Jeff and Bryce, do you think the Snyder Cut was a bad idea, not due to the quality, but because of it placating the fans? I personally think it's a slippery slope. Thanks for being the only site that I've religiously followed for the last 7 or 8 years. I've lost track. Wow. All right. Thank you, Professor Fett.
I saw a trending topic or a trending hashtag or something on Twitter the other day that was release the Zemo cut. And he's the guy in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he was the guy in Civil War, I guess. And I didn't look into it. I hope it was a joke because, but even then, memes. This is gonna sound very stupid, but I believe the thing under the very stupid thing, which is that memes can become real, right? I almost I'm sure we can imagine iconography from, say, the recent history that seemed initially as funny haha jokes.
Right.
Oh, isn't that something to ridicule? And then those things become long-lasting images. That is memetics broadly, right? Like ideas are not just because an idea is a joke doesn't mean that it always stays a joke. And with this even being so fucking expensive and so long and so very specific to the type of fan. I mean, it was like, what was the first Netflix? Would it have been Sense8, the first Netflix thing that was like, kind of got not uncanceled, but got like a finale, kind of got a wrap up. Hey, this thing is just gonna get a wrap up. We ended this prematurely, but we're just gonna wrap it up for you.
Yeah.
And now it's everything that has to get ended. Everyone wants it to return back, and so with Release the Snyder Cut becoming dangerously real, it's all like, hey, this bad thing could be fixed if you change this, if you make it long, if you do X, Y, and Z. And not that say the community can't have a voice in the creation of things. I think fandoms especially may not always be the best voice, even if they are a very highly exploited market right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Professor Fett, I guess that's a long way of saying yes. I think you're right.
Yeah, I am 100% of the opinion that one of the worst things, in my opinion, about the time in which we live is that studios pay attention to Twitter. Like I think that I don't necessarily think that there's not a situation where you can say like an artist that has a vision and wants to make something shouldn't listen to like what the fans want and try to give them what they want. But my God, is that a slippery slope? And like for the most part, I personally do not. Well, there's two things for me. One, I don't want to be given what I want. I want to get what I don't know that I want. Like, if you just give me the fan service that I want, that's boring to me. That's just like, oh, look, the Daleks are back. Great. Oh, shit. But like, when you give me something that I don't want, like when I turn on Enter the Spider-Verse and I'm like, holy shit, I never even knew this was a thing. And now it's like the best Spider-Man thing I've seen in years. That's what I want out of art. But then also, I come back to this a lot in my discourse on the internet of just like, I don't have that sense of like, I should be able to demand a thing and then the world should accommodate me. Maybe it's being like weird Gen X. Maybe it's growing up off the internet. Maybe it's a product of just like inherently low self-esteem and esteem issues over the course of my life, or like, being a slightly overweight dude in the 90s when that wasn't exactly super accepted or whatever. But like, there's a part of me where I'm just like, what possible reason could there be for me to demand what I want and then get it? Like, I wouldn't expect to get what I want. That's not how the world works. You don't get what you want. You work super hard, and then you get a disappointing version of a thing when you're too old to enjoy it. That's how it works. So,
well, yeah. I mean, yes, and also we are in a time like if it used to be if you like did something that wasn't great or wasn't good, right? Quality wise, it would be kind of tough to find out. It would be tough to get the reaction, to understand how people felt outside of big media response, right?
Right.
And now everyone can tell you what their reaction is. I don't think that recognizing your place as a consumer in the process is necessarily, I'll say it's not anybody's fault, because that's how the platforms that we use are designed, right? Twitter is not designed for you to be measured and moderate in how much you post. They want you to post all the time, but whatever is on your mind. And if you get into a fight, that's great for Twitter because that's more tweets.
Yep.
Not that tweets are the currency of Twitter, but in broadly, you can understand that. And so I don't begrudge anyone for saying, "Oh man, I would love to see at Disney Plus's at the Falcon and Winter Soldier show have a longer cut or what." Like, I don't begrudge anyone for using the tools that are not just given but are almost forced upon them to do the thing that people like to do, which is talk about themselves. And it requires a certain amount of inaction to those I don't know, to those reactions and to those I don't know, responses that we don't really see. We see a lot of, I think especially you talk about corporations, I think we see them be more active, especially on social media, than ever, right? You look at brands saying "bay," all of the
Wendy's Twitter,
IHOP Twitter, all of the very oh man, they're just like me when
they're not.
They're not. No, they're not. They want to make money off of you. And so I don't begrudge anyone being wrapped up into it. But it's on either the creator side or the publisher side, or, somewhere along the process, someone's got to say, I think it's fine if you, the expert, kind of exert your creative license. And we put trust in you. We have our mechanisms that are not all community and public oriented and generated.
Yeah. I guess that the kind of the flip side of that is that I heard that a bunch of people were zero starring Godzilla versus Kong with hashtag restore the Snyderverse, and it's don't
right,
just fucking stop it, man. You got it, you won, you got your thing, and now it's
but Jeff, DC could have its own cinematic universe, and the master Zack Snyder could be at the helm of it.
All right, we're wandering dangerously close to the Jeff starts shit talking Zack Snyder for fucking 4 more hours. That's going to be our show for this week. Thanks everybody for writing in. I'm sorry we didn't get to as many questions as I originally thought. mail@ragechat.com is the email address. Bryce, where can the people find you when you are not here?
I would say of 2 things. A, follow me on Twitter at Brycas, BRYCAS. That is usually the me space. That's my place. I'll write jokes and let people know about stuff. Tonight, we are doing our penultimate match in our marbles racing, the League of Fun Games marbles. And wait, I don't know who's going to win, but we're going to...
Is this the Sunday that I'm putting this out, or is this the day that we're recording this?
It's the day that we're recording this. We're gonna so hold on. So we're gonna do one tonight.
Okay.
We're gonna crown a champion. I don't know who it is. Listener, you might. And then a week from when this comes out, next Sunday on the 18th, we're gonna do our postseason where we're gonna wipe all the points. We're gonna give everybody multipliers, and whoever can beat the point total of whoever wins tonight will get their own virtual trophy. And so, if you've heard me talk about marbles, if you want to get into it, now's a good time. The website is marbles.win. That's got the links to Twitch and the email sign up and all of the schedule stuff. Marbles.win. Check it out. It is a good time. And as we wrap up the season, I'm not ready to announce a season 2 yet, but we will be doing marbles over the summer. So keep an eye out.
It's at Netflix. Netflix is going to pick it up to complete the Marvel season. Marvel's season 2 on Netflix in 5 years.
Marvel's a very special ending brought to you by Netflix.